when there's an injustice, whether it's against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down. Don't sit down on them because they need you.
Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signar, and we just saw the closing arguments of the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard defamation trial. And I know a lot of you guys have gotten emotional. The show is over. We're now just waiting for the ratings, for the results to come in. But my gosh, what a finale we got where both sides took the stand to give us their last hurrah, their last argument as to who should win this case. And I'm so excited to break it down with an amazing panel. We got It's Kim. What's up, Kim?
Oh my goodness, what a day.
Gotta thank Kim so much because behind the scenes, Kim has been instrumental in helping to organize and oversee so much of what you see on screen here today. So Kim, bravo for all this. You stepped up to help, and the entire team, including Linda down below. I wanted Linda on the show because she's been so helpful with and so much more. So many other amazing people we have to thank. We'll thank you all throughout the show. Amazing editors Mike and Alicia, who are still feverishly editing, listening to Elaine. They took the bullet today, guys. So thank you to them.
Legends. Legends amongst men.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Linda. And always thank you, Steph, the alter nerd, the OG of this channel, behind the scenes, pulling all the secrets and tricks to make sure we've been so successful. How are you doing, Steph?
I'm doing fine. I'm glad I've finished work for the day.
It was a
I'll give you
stressful
that.
day.
Oh my goodness, how stressful it's been today for work. No idea, guys.
You're in for some more shock as we watch the clips. I know you didn't get to watch everything, but we're going to break it down with our expert, legal expert. They love him. They love you, Christopher. So happy to have you back. Christopher Melcher, how you doing, sir?
Well, it's good to see the thing come to an end. You know, hopefully now we'll see this verdict be coming out and we can kind of get moving with our lives because this thing is
consuming,
captivating, and it just takes over your life. So
everyone's like, what do we do now? I don't know what I'm going to do now. Well, we have more content. We'll be a little chiller about everything because this has consumed all day long for everybody, 24/7 coverage. And as much as I've been on the edge of my seat, I'm very grateful that we finally get a verdict. All right, well, let's break it down. We got so much to go through, guys. I do want to start with my favorite moment of the day. Literally during Amber's closing.
Colors to Amber on recent journey. I am an insane person and not so fair-headed after too much of the drink.
What's that noise?
Weed, pills, fine. Booze,
What's
my
that noise?
capacity is too large and I won't stop. Ugly and sad.
Beep, beep,
oh, how I love it.
Wait, is that a bullshit detector? Oh wait, sorta.
There appears to be an Amber Alert, but I think we're okay.
Oh my god!
People are getting it, I guess, on their phones that haven't silenced that.
Oh, okay. You're right.
And then the irony of, guess who didn't silence it as it keeps going? It looks like Elaine has to check
Yes,
her
sir.
purse.
So that's,
You think it's
That's not
over,
lyrics,
but it's not over.
This is what I was getting to next. Remember the testimony about Mr. Depp being drunk on his yacht
Oh my god!
on the island in the Bahamas in 2013 when Mr. Depp looked a little scary by the way his body fell into the water.
Guys,
Lily Rose,
I
his
mean,
daughter, started to
how do
cry.
you write this better than the irony of an Amber Alert interrupting Amber Heard's closing argument? I couldn't have. I knew we had to lead with that right at the gate. I just couldn't believe it. It was like the gods, whoever you believe in, the universe was like, yeah, no, but Rottenborn, we're not buying this bullshit. Amber Alert. I mean, obviously, I think it was a tornado warning is what we ended up finding out in reality. But I'm sorry, that's forever the Amber Alert of the Amber trial. The universe had enough. That's how I saw it. They were like, enough of this bullshit. Enough of these turds. It's time to call this out. Amazing. How absurd is that, Christopher? The Amber Alert. I mean, we've gone through 6 weeks. And not even during Johnny's closing, during Amber's closing, Amber Alerts go off. Does that shock you?
no, it was surreal, and I think the judge did refer to it as an Amber Alert incorrectly because it was a weather alert, and then I was waiting to see if she would correct it because, you know, I mean, obviously everyone sees the irony of that statement, but they moved forward. But
She did. I think she was trying to let's just
can't
move
make this
on.
up.
But it was that anyway. So that was the most absurd moment of the day. We couldn't have a normal day. Oh wait, yeah, there was one more moment. I guess we got another abuser in the courtroom, guys. Call the cops. Call the cops. Someone call the police. Oh my God, what a monster. Oh, this person's. Oh, how dare you! Leave me alone! Back away! You're triggering me! But yes, this woman fell asleep, and I know why she fell asleep, because they don't let you sleep if you go to this court. You got to get there at like 1 a.m. You got to camp on the sidewalk, and then apparently one of the guy's DUI lawyer got in a big beef at the start of the day because he paid $4,000, Christopher, to get in the line. He had someone waiting in the line. He took that person's in front of everybody, paid them $4,000. Bill, whatever service, took the line. Everyone in the line was fine with it, and then the deputy was like, "No, you're not allowed in. Sorry, we don't sell spots." And it created a whole drama in the beginning of the day. Does that surprise you though, that people were selling their portions? And should that have been allowed? And does it even matter if you substitute with a person? Shouldn't it not matter?
Well, I understand about it. I mean, all those concerns. They should have came up with a better system, because look, this isn't the 80s where we got to line up for something. I mean, they could have done it, online, some reservation system. Then you can, kind of track this person who, whatever, and making sure that it's fairly allocated. We did see that in Brittany's case, where there were very few court seats, and and it's a limited thing, but to have somebody have to wait up all night in the cold, there's got to be a better way.
Especially after weeks of they to get a hand. It was very strange. You're like, give everyone one. All right, you already were in once. Time for someone else. Like, we could have funneled people in a million times better. I would say that was that was one major problem. And media access, I'm going to call them out. To only allow court TV media access, which is seemingly what I'm hearing happened. I don't know how that was allowed. You had to be covering the court for an amount of time that clearly only Court TV knew they could have. They also had the exclusive feed, or were in charge of the exclusive feed. I found all of that very unfortunate and not fair. There should have been a few other media outlet seats, even if it was other outlets. But anyway, there was a lot of travesty in getting in. But all right, everyone got in. This was the day to get in because we had our closing arguments. Before we play the clips, I guess let's do just a quick round of overall thoughts. And I do want to go to you, Christopher. You caught up. Who won? Who do you think won in these closings based on your watching?
Well, I think Camille and Ben did an excellent job. It was organized. It's hard because you're taking all this information that the jury heard, and then now they're putting it together in a way that the jury would see the connections and how it relates, most importantly, to what Johnny has to prove. So I think that that was done very well. I also think Rottenborn did an excellent job because he was also organized. He talked about the facts and he applied them to these claims and defenses that Amber's making. Now, Elaine, I think, undid a lot of that work through her more rambling and a more of annoying kind of presentation style that she has. So Rottenborn, again, I mean, he's a professional. He did just as good of a job as Camille and Ben Chu did, in my view. Rottenborn, especially in the 6 minutes that he had left, summed it up pretty quickly. And I think that they were hamstringed. Rottenborn's hamstringed by the fact that Amber brought her counterclaim because it was completely inconsistent with all the arguments that he's making. Free speech. Look, you can talk about stuff, even if you're a little bit wrong, doesn't mean you get sued for it. Oh, but Waldman's statements, though, those are not free speech and those are false. So it made it much more, it actually helped Johnny for her to have sued him because it showed the discrepancies or inconsistencies in the own argument that Rottenborn was making.
Yeah, there was a point near the end where literally they were trying to say that, where it's like, Johnny's just here for justice, but that's not allowed, and you can't base it on just justice. We got to base it on the evidence. Oh, and by the way, we're countersuing for $100 million because we want revenge against Amber, and she deserves monetary damage. It was like it went completely into the the whole argument just exploded as I heard it. I was just laughing, like, didn't you just say? It didn't make any sense. Let's go, Kim, we'll go to you first. What did you think?
Overall, I think Camille and Ben did well. I was happy with them. I feel like Camille did better with the rebuttal. In all honesty, I think she was quite to the point and very effective with what she was saying with the rebuttal. Rottenborn, at points, I think he was strong. And I say that from the perspective of I disagree with a lot of what he was saying, but he was definitely presenting it well, in my opinion. But I mean, like, obviously, so much of what he was presenting, though, was that if their evidence had not been challenged, and their evidence has been challenged, and a lot of it has been disproven. So I didn't think the argument was super well. And then I don't know what Elaine was doing. I'm not trying to be rude, but I said to my sister, I have had conversations with people that have Alzheimer's and dementia that made more sense than some of what I heard her say today. And I'm not saying that to insinuate that she's not well, but it just was like, she was obviously incredibly flustered, and it heavily affected the way that she gave her account of closing. I mean, even to the point, at one point, she actually said that Johnny married his sister-in-law.
It was
that I went back, I watched it
mess.
multiple times. I'm like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. It was not a good way for her to go out. I hope that she's able to go home and get some sleep, because I think she's had enough.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird moments of Elaine. Just that she was all over the place, and it was weird. You could tell that the clock was really pressuring her because they didn't have as much time, but she had as much time as Camille and Ben did. So I don't understand why she was so all over the place. It was very weird. Steph, I know you didn't really get to watch, so we can come back to you in the first one.
Well, I did. I was able to get bits and bats because, guys, I've got a day job. I'm hosting it for you guys, but I've got a day job. From what I did see, Elaine said something that was she was all over the place. Like, from what I could gather, from what I saw, she was all over the place. She was dithering. It was very much reminiscent of her opening statement. Didn't, to me, have much direction. It just kind of went off and had like a mind of its own. It wasn't controlled. It wasn't structured enough. But she said something that I was like, you what? She was like, talking about the amounts that they were suing for. So, Mr. Depp is suing Amber Heard for 50 million and Amber Heard is suing Johnny Depp for 100 million. But members of the jury, you don't have to give 100 million. We're not expecting 100 million. You can give less. What? Like, I'm sorry, but I don't understand why the hell she'd say that in the first place.
It's like us asking for
even
super.
Have that
it can be anything. Yeah, how about $1?
Yeah,
We'll take anything.
I'm like, what the hell? And then, in terms of the other side that I saw that stands out in my mind, it's something that Camille said. Two things. Firstly, I'm glad it was said out loud in the court. And she said something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that Amber Heard is doing a disservice to the real members of the survivorship community because she's lying. And she's doing a real disservice, which is something that every step of the way I've said time and time again, because to me it's something that shouldn't be forgotten and something that shouldn't be swept under the carpet. And the other thing that she did, which I thought was amazing, was out and out actually call her a liar. It was either her or Ben Chu that called her a liar when they brought up the Kate Moss example, for instance. And she was like, guess what? Amber Heard lied to you. She lied about the Kate Moss incident, because guess what? Kate Moss came on and told you all that Amber Heard's full of shiz and it never happened the way Amber Heard said it happened. So yeah, she was more direct in terms of what she was saying, pointed to the evidence more directly, more succinctly, more clearly, that I think in terms of her closing argument and Ben Chu's closing argument, it meant then that it was easier for the jury to follow. I think with Elaine, the jury would have just been lost. I was lost with the bits that I heard. So who knows with the jury.
Linda, you were watching, keeping notes. What was your opinion?
Overall, the first thing that came to mind was hearing everything with Amber. I just kept thinking, be careful what you wish for. She always wanted fame, and she got it. She did, and she definitely did with this case. So it's just, unfortunately, she didn't get it in the light that she wanted. So I feel like karma, regardless of the outcome, is coming to get her. But overall, with the closing arguments, I felt Johnny's team kept it together. Like Chris Melcher said, it was well kept together, organized. They were always well prepared. Regardless of how we feel about Ben Rothenborn, he seemed to have it more together than Elaine did. Elaine was, excuse my language, but she was kind of tossing the word salad. But she kind of made everybody feel like they have it out of control, like they're losing it. And I feel when Elaine was doing her part, I think she lost the jury in that, whether she had them to begin with or not. It was just so all over the place.
I concur. I do think Elaine really missed it at the end. But Rottenborn did come back for a few more minutes and love him. I mean, I know a lot of you don't love him, but he did his job. I don't know how you do this job and defend someone like this better than he tried. Because as frustrating as it was, and Elaine, at least he was attempting. When Elaine came out with hers, it was just lie after lie after lie and just making shit up and hearsay. And you remember this, guys? You remember that guy came out and he told you that he did it? They all know he did it. And then, like, you remember that other guy who came up? He was like, it was just all this weird, like, you remember, and then. Whereas I feel like Camille brought it down. In fact, let's get to Camille's thing. We have it edited here, but she really, I thought, was more poised, organized than ever, and had a script. But good, you should have a script in this, to make sure you get through all the points that you need to show.
Good morning. On May 27th, 2016, Ms. Heard walked into a courthouse in Los Angeles, California, to get a no-notice ex-parte restraining order against Mr. Depp, and in doing so, ruined his life by falsely telling the world that she was a survivor of domestic abuse at the hands of Mr. Depp. Today, on May 27th, 2022, exactly 6 years later, we ask you to give Mr. Depp his life back by telling the world that Mr. Depp is not the abuser Ms. Heard said he is, and hold Ms. Heard accountable for her lies. After weeks of sitting in this courtroom, now it's time for you, the jury, to come to a decision. What is at stake in this trial is a man's good name, is a man's life. The life that he lost when he was accused of a heinous crime. Exactly 6 years ago today, Ms. Heard walked into court and filed a false report of domestic abuse against her husband of 15 months. The scene was a setup. She tipped off the paparazzi so they would be waiting. They knew exactly where she would pause, which side of her face to photograph. And the photos captured what she wanted them to see, the image of a battered woman. It was a lie. She knew it, Mr. Depp knew it, and the multiple witnesses you heard from also knew it. But the world only saw what she wanted them to see. 2 years later, when promoting the biggest role of her career until this trial, Ms. Heard presented herself to the world as a public figure representing domestic abuse. But Ms. Heard made sure that there would be no mistake about who she was referring to, so the world would remember the photo of a battered woman, the mark on her face standing outside the courthouse. And there is a victim of domestic abuse in this courtroom, but it is not Ms. Heard. Ms. Heard is in fact the abuser, and Mr. Depp the abused. Ms. Heard never thought she would be held accountable. She never thought that Mr. Depp would tell you, the jury, and the world that he was the real victim of domestic abuse. She said it in her own words.
See what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, I'm a victim too of domestic violence. And yes. I am seized how these people believe or side with you.
I'm just pausing because I want to offer commentary, but it's such a damning piece of clip, and I noticed she didn't play any clips. I don't think maybe one. They barely played any of the audio tapes, which you'd think would be what they need to show the jury. But here, Johnny very smartly played. He's going to play a few more. But Christopher, I imagine that was very tight start connection, connecting it to the TRO, why that's relevant. And all of it, and then getting right to that audio tape to admit that she did it. This was pretty effective, no?
Yeah, it's anchoring, and if you kind of go back in our own journey through this story, you've heard some clips, you've seen some photos, you've heard some facts, they all kind of get mashed up in your head, but then when you kind of bring it together and relate it, then it's like, oh yeah, okay, I remember that, and this is maybe a different way of seeing it. So it's helpful to replay that to them, because when they go back in the jury room, they're going to get this laptop with all the recordings and then have all this other evidence to look at. So basically, closing argument is a guide to say, here's what we got, here's how we think it proves these points that we're trying to make here. And that's why it's extremely important to have an organized presentation and the show and tell like we're seeing right here.
Yeah, which they did, which I feel like Rottenborn did not have.
Part of this case, Mr. Chu and I stood before you. We made promises to you. One of those promises we made was that you would come to understand who Ms. Heard is, that she is a deeply troubled person, violently afraid of abandonment, desperate for attention and approval. And in her relationship with Mr. Depp, she was abusive and she was cruel. Ms. Heard suffers from borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. These are disorders that are characterized by anger, sometimes uncontrollable and explosive anger, and a powerful, sometimes desperate need for attention, acceptance, and approval. Fear of abandonment is the deepest fear. A person with these disorders will suffer from dramatically fluctuating moods and can sometimes be violent and aggressive. They can be incredibly manipulative and wild, an emotional roller coaster with wild swings. Ms. Heard self-reported that she felt like she had 3 or 4 different personalities, and that sometimes her temper would explode and she'd completely lose control. You heard that even from her former assistant, Kate James. Ms. James testified that Ms. Heard would scream, yell, and send her barrages of text messages. Ms. James testified that Ms. Heard literally spat in her face. You heard from Ms. Heard's former best friend, Rocky Pennington, that Ms. Heard once hit her when Ms. Pennington did not do her best to meet Ms. Heard's needs. And you heard from Mr. Depp that Ms. Heard used her sister Whitney as a punching bag, literally and figuratively. Ms. Heard's deepest fear is one of abandonment, being left by Mr. Depp. Mr. Depp's greatest crime in her mind, the fault she confronts him with time and time again, is that he splits. He leaves the fight, especially when Ms. Heard gets physical, and she couldn't stand it when he did. You heard from Ms. Heard yourselves in audio recordings.
Anytime anything goes wrong, you split. It's not always you're splitting because there's blows or because there's yelling or anything. You split most times when I'm still speaking in this volume and nothing has been thrown or hit or anything.
You heard from witnesses like Travis McGivern, Tara Roberts, and Debbie Lloyd that Ms. Heard would claw at Mr. Depp, block the elevator, throw a punch when Mr. Depp tried to separate himself from the fight. And you heard from Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's couple therapist, Dr. Anderson, that Ms. Heard reported that when Mr. Depp would leave to de-escalate a fight, she would strike him to keep him there because she would rather be in a fight than have him leave. You heard from Mr. Depp about how often Ms. Heard would berate him, insult him, and physically attack him, including one of the most serious occasions when Ms. Heard threw a vodka bottle at Mr. Depp, severely injuring his finger, and then put a cigarette out on his face. When her husband was seriously injured and bleeding from a partially amputated finger, what did Ms. Heard do? She pursued him. She kept coming after him. Because that's what she does. She wouldn't stop.
In Australia, when we had the big fight where I lost and took my finger, 5 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms I went to escape the fight.
You don't escape the fight. You escape the solution.
No.
You escape. We cannot work it out if you run away to the bathroom every time.
And you heard from Travis McGivern.
Sorry, I just got to give ourselves commentary because I know you guys watch, but just horrifying audio. I'll go to you, Kim. When you hear all these audio tapes, and I'm glad to know that jury's going to have them all, but it's so weird how she's saying he's this monster, yet she's the one who's constantly trying to be there and talk to him and not let him go and not let him time off. And then that one audio in the car, which I was sad they didn't play a bit of, where he's like, I'm just going in for 2 hours to see my daughter, and she's losing it and keeps him there for all that time. I mean, it's just nuts. I don't know what the question I have for you, but I guess your reaction, like when you hear this stuff and she's not letting him have time, how does that show us the monster that she keeps alluding to?
I feel like the audio tapes, I know that Amber would say that they're taken out of context, that they're spliced to make her look bad and all those types of things, but I'm sorry, there's so much in these audios that is just not excusable. I don't care about the context. Like even like the ones, I'm not sure if it made it to the cut or not, but there's another audio file where she's just laughing. Yeah. Like maniacally at him after taunting him. And it's like, it just shows like she's just such in a very tame way, just like this is a tame way to say it, but she's just a bully. She's being a bully all the time that we're seeing this, and it's just not. I don't get it. I don't understand how she thinks that this is a good defense by saying that, because it's just not acceptable. And then when you throw in all the other evidence, you talk about everything else, it's just so obvious that this is not okay, and that she was so really terrible to him.
I'll keep coming around to each of you as we pause, but let's get back to.
Who testified that Ms. Heard called Mr. Depp names like washed up, and worst of all, a fucking deadbeat dad. Ms. Heard would take the low blows and hit him where it hurts, his children. You heard testimony from Malcolm Connolly, another security member, who testified he saw Ms. Heard throw things at Mr. Depp. He never saw marks on Ms. Heard. You heard Ms. Heard admit to hitting Mr. Depp.
Or punching me in the jaw.
I didn't. Okay, I'm sorry I hit you. I did mean to hit you, but it was in response. I just reacted in response to my foot. I just reacted.
You heard her admit it again and claim Mr. Depp was a baby for complaining about the abuse.
I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this. I fucking was hitting you, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you. I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are. You're a fucking baby. Sorry. You are such a baby. Grow the fuck up, Johnny. I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get the fuck out of there.
You know what? You're admirable.
I mean, shouldn't that audio alone just sort of make her guilty, Christopher? Is it not effective enough where it could?
Yeah, what I'm thinking, if I'm on this jury, I'm going to remember that when she recounted some of these very events here, we're talking 6-9 years after the fact, that she, apparently was flooded with emotion, that these were so traumatic that she could not even describe what happened without fake crying. But then here in this audio tape, this can't be that long after the actual incident occurred, where she is, aggressive, angry. Like, there is no sense of any, oh, I can't believe this is such a horrible event, I can't talk about it. To me, that's like the true witness. That's the truth that we're hearing on the tape. And that means what we heard in court is a lie. And then once, they make that kind of comparison, then everything falls into place.
Steph, go back to you quick. Thought you agree, I assume.
Yeah, I do. It's just, I've said before in terms of like a recollection, Camille said it best herself. In terms of certain things that Amber says, how convenient, Amber, able to remember some things, not the other, able to photograph some things, but not the other. She's got a very convenient, selective memory, let's put it that way.
It's convenient.
There you go.
That is convenient.
Take a minute to really think about what you just heard there. But I was hitting you. I was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched. Imagine that was Mr. Depp saying that to Miss Heard.
Ooh, that was a good one. Well, watch Johnny.
On that recording. What you didn't
I guess what Johnny was like, that was a good
hear
one.
on a single recording you heard in this case is Mr. Depp ever admitting to hitting, punching, or kicking Miss Heard.
Never.
You didn't hear it. It doesn't exist. It didn't happen. You never heard Miss Heard accuse Mr. Depp of sexual assault.
What is this substitute teacher that's suddenly taking the place of Amber Heard? The hell is this nonsense? Oh, excuse me. Where'd my I had my glasses. Pardon me. They fell. I'm gonna throw them on. What is this weird, excuse me, I'm an intellectual now who's taking notes. This is ridiculous.
Assault. Unlike Mr. Depp, who you heard admit to and own up to his past mistakes and his struggles, particularly with drugs and alcohol, Ms. Heard will not admit that she has ever done anything wrong, but she cannot deny what you heard on those recordings. It is Ms. Heard that repeatedly admits to violence. By April and May of 2016, Mr. Depp had reached his limit. His mother was dying. His finances were a mess. And when he showed up late to Miss Heard's 30th birthday party because a meeting with his new business manager, Edward White, had gone late, Miss Heard, of course, was not understanding. She was furious. Miss Heard punched him that evening. He left with Travis McGivern, and the next morning he learned that someone had left feces on his bed. Ms. Heard denies responsibility, but she admitted to the prank to Starling Jenkins. He resolved to leave Ms. Heard. He was done. And when Ms. Heard learned that Mr. Depp was done, that she was really losing him, she went on the attack. She filed for divorce before Mr. Depp could. Then, Ms. Heard sent a letter demanding financial support. And when her demands weren't met, Ms. Heard struck a blow against Mr. Depp that was more damaging than any physical blow she had ever landed. When she walked into court 6 years ago today, on May 27th, 2016, to get a domestic violence restraining order against Mr. Depp, she did so in front of paparazzi with a mark on her face. The evidence presented at this trial demonstrates that Ms. Heard didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to ruin him. Ms. Heard testified that she did not personally give photographs of her apparent injuries to People magazine. But somehow, these pictures that she took and maintained on her devices ended up on the cover of People magazine. 1 month later. In the end, she walked away with $7 million without any tax liabilities, which she said she was donating to 2 charities.
$7 million in total was donated. Wanted nothing.
The ACLU, they got less than $1 million from her. And the Children's Hospital, they got $250,000. But that didn't stop Ms. Heard from telling the world that she donated everything. Because remember, she wanted nothing, and she had donated everything. The word donated, and that didn't stop her from testifying under the penalty of perjury that she had donated it. Ms. Heard tried to tell you that pledge and donate mean the same thing. She claims she hasn't given the money because she was sued. She had all the money and had month after month after month to fulfill her pledge and actually donate the money, but she didn't. Lies. That is Ms. Heard's narrative. Lies upon lies. So let's talk about the giant lie at the heart of this case.
Before we get there, Linda, is a donation the same as a what's she calling it again? A
Pledge.
pledge? What do you think, Linda?
No, absolutely not. And every time we hear pledge, the word so much, I'm thinking about like pledge for like cleaning your tables and all that. Like I can't get it out of my head. But like it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And I mean, I'm glad Camille started with saying, and she did it. She repeated it a few times that this is the 6-year anniversary. I think that was good that she started with that, because a lot of things that Amber does, whether you believe that it's coincidental, but a lot of things that she does is she happens to ruin like moments or special dates that are supposed to be, you know, thought about in memory with happiness, like holidays, or a sad thing like when his mother had passed. Then she replaced it with, let's just slap a divorce on it. So I think it was very on point that she mentioned that. A lot of people in the chat are talking about how it's also Lily Rose's birthday. So I know that's the thing. But in a way, all that makes you think about, like, are the stars aligning possibly? Is this really maybe like a wake-up call, including that Amber Alert? But it's just, with the whole money talk, crazy. It's just, it doesn't compare.
Thinking positive. Christopher, I'm just like, would you have ever gone with the pledge thing, like as a defense? Do you think that holds any weight?
No, it makes her look awful. That, I mean, it really is revealing, and for her to say, because she's very intelligent and articulate, so for her to say that pledge and donate mean the same thing in her mind, it's not credible. And, you know, she should have come up with a better lie or excuse for not giving what she had promised to do. The thing is, you know, with these notes, and clients do this to the lawyers all the time, but at this stage in the case, you know, there's really not much there. Yeah, you're sitting there writing the notes to me, and usually those notes, if you ever got to see them, is they're lying. It's all lies. It didn't happen. And it's like, okay, as an attorney, when you're in the moment listening to all this and saying, okay, am I going to pivot or change some of my closing that I've already written based on what I'm listening to? Having the client tell you that this is all lies or remind you of things that you've been in court for 6 weeks dealing with does nothing other than to distract. But this shows, you know, her superiority. She knows she's going to instruct her, you know, Rottenborn on how to deliver this closing argument. This guy's, you know, a professional attorney, you know, or experienced attorney, and she's going to give him a Post-it note that's going to blow this dude's mind.
It's unreal, because they must be so fed up at this point and be so glad this is over, I would think. This has got to be so stressful for them. And I know we're not supposed to like Rottenborn, but good on him, man. He kept, that's his role. Everybody deserves counsel, and he did it. And to sit there and have to just take those Post-it notes exactly and just ignore them, I'm sure he kept on his own path, right? And probably was like, and then just did what he thought was the best move, which I'm sure was the better move than whatever Amber was trying to feed him. It's just telling, because and then previous to the day over, right, she's saying, I'm not here laughing and smirking. Dude, there's cameras there. Like,
Wow.
She laughed so many times. I hope we pulled it. There's a few moments where she was giggling and smiling throughout this whole thing. It was unreal.
Ms. Heard's claim that Mr. Depp is an abusive monster. At the start of this case, Mr. Chu and I told you that you were going to hear some disturbing and graphic tales of abuse from Ms. Heard. We told you that this would be a performance, the role of her lifetime. She spun a story of shocking, overwhelming, brutal abuse. She came into this courtroom prepared to give the performance of her life. Ms. Heard's acting coach, Christina Sexton, testified that Ms. Heard has difficulty crying when she is acting. You saw it. Ms. Heard sobbing without tears, while spinning elaborate, exaggerated, fantastical accounts of abuse. It was a performance. She told you what she thinks you need to hear to convict this man as a domestic abuser and a rapist. She wants you to believe
Sorry, I gotta bleep the R word. It makes things so much harder to get through.
that she was abused countless times. The evidence just does not bear that out. Ms. Heard has told you that she has mountains of evidence of abuse, but there are no medical records reflecting she sustained any injuries from the abuse she claims. Ms. Heard had medical professionals at her disposal. Dr. Kipper, Debbie Lloyd, her own nurse, Erin Filati, and yet there's nothing. Ms. Heard took pictures all the time. Pictures of Mr. Depp sleeping, pictures of cocaine, pictures of property damage, pictures of herself. And as an actress, she was photographed all the time. Where are the pictures of the horrific injuries Ms. Heard describes? Ms. Heard also took audio recordings and videos frequently. Where are the videos of Mr. Depp attacking her? Where are the audio recordings of Mr. Depp admitting to or apologizing for physical abuse? There are none. Ms. Heard testified.
Yeah, Steph, I'll go back to you. That's such an important one, I think. They were filming and recording everything. She was taking pictures of the weirdest stuff, and she didn't get her extreme injuries or him ever doing it. It just seems so... I know you've sort of said, well, not always, but at this point, isn't this a good point that Camille is making? What do you think, Steph?
I mean, this is the thing. It is, because any pictures that Amber Heard has shown to the jury, to the court of quote injuries, I mean, they don't look... Not to downplay it as such, but they don't look horrific. It's not like, I hate to kind of go back to it, but the Rihanna photo, like, it's not like that where you're like, shiz the bed, Chris Brown is an evil mofo. It's not that. It's like a little bruise, if it is a bruise, or a little cut, if it is a cut, and all this lot. If he did what she claims he did, to me, I would reasonably think that the injuries would be a heck of a lot more substantial, and that she'd want to photograph them, because the more substantial the injury, the more impact then that photo is going to be to anyone that's going to see it. It's not like, oh, here's a little bruise on top of her cheek. No, she could have shown, if it did happen the way she said, you know, with the rings on and everything, because remember, beginning at trial, it was said he never really took his rings off that much in terms of her testimony, never known Johnny not to have his rings on. She'd have freaking black eyes, broken nose. Her face would be a mess if he did what she alleges. And if she was that gung-ho on taking pictures of the quote-unquote evidence of what he'd done to her, you'd think she'd want to take pictures of those kind of injuries. Not like little medic injuries here, there, and that's it. It just don't make sense. So yeah, where are those other photos, Amber? It just don't make sense. And then Camille as well, along the same lines, she goes along and says something about an Amber Heard alleges a back injury and she didn't want to show her back, this, that and the other. But, oh, guess what? Here's a picture from a premiere the day after. Backless dress. Do you see any injuries, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Because I don't, and I smell bullshit, and it ain't coming from Johnny's bed.
That's true. Let's get rid of through Camille's, and then we'll all connect.
Then in January 2015, while she and Mr. Depp were in Tokyo, Mr. Depp knelt on her back so aggressively that she was concerned that bruises would be visible in her backless dress. Here's Ms. Heard in that backless dress.
There you go.
Ms. Heard testified that after an incident in December 2015, she had two black eyes, a broken nose, and chunks of hair missing. The assault was allegedly so violent that there was blood left all over the pillows, and Mr. Depp had broken the bed frame. Pictures were taken of that bed frame. There appears to be a pocket knife on the bed, and that picture fails to capture the bloody pillows. Indeed, you heard from Ms. Heard's own nurse, Erin Filati, that she saw her a day or two afterwards and could not visualize the injuries Ms. Heard described. Out of Australia, where Mr. Depp sustained the most serious injury from his relationship with Ms. Heard spun a story of horror, a 3-day ordeal with a drug-fueled Mr. Depp violently assaulting her, cutting his own finger off, dragging her through glass, bending her back over a counter, and with a whiskey bottle. She claimed that she had bruises on her face, cuts all over her arms and feet, and was bleeding assault. And what did Ms. Heard say she did? She went upstairs, took some sleeping pills, and went to sleep. The next morning, she took pictures of the mirrors her husband had written on in paint using his amputated finger. She took no pictures of herself, her alleged injuries, or the property damage she testified to in this courtroom. And no one, including Ms. Heard, testified that she sought medical treatment. When Ms. Heard arrived in Los Angeles, she saw Travis McGivern, who also testified he observed no injuries, and her personal nurse, Erin Filati, who documented no request for medical treatment and no injuries in her nursing notes for Ms. Heard. Ms. Heard's testimony about what occurred in Australia just doesn't add up. That's because there was a monster in that house in Australia, but it wasn't Mr. Depp. It was Ms. Heard. The evidence presented at this trial shows that this is not the only time that Ms. Heard disclosed a at a convenient time for purposes of litigation she's involved in. The first time Ms. Heard claimed in December 2015 was after Tara Roberts, the manager of Mr. Depp's Island, submitted a sworn statement in the UK action describing the incident she testified to in this courtroom, where Ms. Heard chased Mr. Depp out of the house, was yelling and then pleading with Mr. Depp to stay while clawing at his hair and clothes, and left Mr. Depp with an injury to his face. That's the first time she disclosed it, after there was contrary evidence. Ms. Heard testified about another incident where Mr. Depp supposedly attacked Ms. Heard and almost pushed her sister Whitney down the stairs. Whitney is the only witness that you heard from that backs up Ms. Heard's version of events. But just like Ms. Heard's version of the events in Australia, her testimony about the staircase incident and that of her sister Whitney's just doesn't square up with the other evidence in this trial. Their testimony is contradicted by the testimony of Travis McGivern and Debbie Lloyd, who were there that night. Ms. Heard and Whitney testified that Mr. Depp threw a Red Bull can that hit or almost hit Ms. Lloyd. Ms. Lloyd testified that never happened. Mr. McGivern testified that it was Ms. Heard who threw a can at Mr. Depp. Ms. Heard testified that Whitney was between her and Mr. Depp when she punched him. Mr. McGivern testified that he was the one between Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp when Ms. Heard punched Mr. Depp. The only picture of an injury from this incident is of Mr. Depp with a shiner. And then we have May 21st, 2016. Ms. Heard testified that Mr. Depp threw a phone at her face, causing a visible injury. Ms. Heard has shown you pictures she claims to show this injury, but these photographs are not to be trusted. You heard from Mr. Neumeister, these photos were stored in a photo editing application, and these photos show signs of manipulation. These two photographs were taken at the exact same time and have the exact same file name, but they are visually different. One shows significantly more redness on Ms. Heard's face than the other. Ms. Heard testified that the difference is explained by turning on a light, but there is no way Ms. Heard could have taken a picture, turned on a light, and then taken another picture with every hair in the exact same place within the same second. It's impossible. And the very next day, after Ms. Heard walked into court with what appeared to be a bruise on her face to obtain a restraining order against Mr. Depp, Ms. Heard was photographed laughing with her best friend, fresh-faced, with no bruise on her face. The mountain of evidence that Mr. Depp abused Ms. Heard is simply not there. Either Mr. Depp in Australia, or Ms. Heard got up on that stand and made up that horrific tale of abuse. Either she's a victim of truly horrific abuse, or she is a woman who is willing to say absolutely anything.
Sounds like stuff we've said here.
It's not Ms. Heard's story. It was an act of profound cruelty, not just to Mr. Depp, but to true survivors of domestic abuse. It was false, it was defamatory, and it caused irreparable harm.
Ooh, I love that ending too. It's strong. Christopher, yeah. So overall, how did she do?
Oh, she did great. I mean, really did a good job summarizing 6 weeks of evidence. attaching it to the legal elements that need to be proven. And, I think that it would have been nice to go into a little bit more in the law. This was a very fact-heavy closing. And I understand, because it's a fact-heavy case, and it really does come down to who is lying, because they both cannot be telling the truth. So I agree with spending a lot of time on fact, but the jury was instructed by the judge, basically reading off instructions that we spend, a couple years in law school learning about these things, and then many years in practice trying to understand. So the thought that the jury would capture all of that, understanding from just being told what the rule is, it's not possible. So part of closing does involve education of the jury about the jury instructions, and to explain this is what the rule is and how we have met, or maybe the other side has not met, that rule based on the evidence. So I would have liked to seen just a little bit more on malice. I don't know if it was her or Ben Chu that covered malice. They definitely talked about the fact that it's just a state of mind that knows that the statement is false or made with a reckless disregard for the truth. And we do have some evidence here of actual evil intent, and that's not necessary to prove malice, but would sure help. And so I think that tying some of the evidence here of how Amber felt about Johnny, not only what she did to him, what she said to him, taunting him on these videos, and then going and getting the restraining order. And people's opinions or views of their spouses or ex-spouses do not get better after they divorce. A lot of times they get worse from a divorce. So if she held this hateful state of mind in 2016, she certainly would have held it in 2018 when she made these statements. Again, you don't have to show evil state of mind or hatefulness, but certainly if she disliked Johnny that badly when she made these statements and they were false, the jury would see like, wow, okay, this was done with the intent to harm. Again, you don't need to prove that, but tying that element would have been just a nice little tiny bow on the thing. But I think overall, well done. There was one point, and maybe this comes up on the rebuttal, I think, where Camille said, look, Johnny's owned everything he's done. He's owned the drug and alcohol history. He's owned the texts. And he never came in here and denied or minimized. And but Amber has. And that drew a laugh from Elaine and Amber because of that, the last bit of Johnny's testimony when he was confronted with text messages that they said were his, and he said, I didn't write those. And so there was an inconsistency there that was never explained. I know that viewers have pointed out that the text message says incoming, which would indicate that Johnny received and it didn't send that message, but we never heard anyone clear that up. So that was one part where I would not have gone in closing because it was inconsistent with apparently what the evidence showed.
Do you think they were allowed, if that was true, they probably would have used it, no? Because they could have added to the script. Johnny hasn't done that. In fact, the defendant has tried to mislabel his own text, which yesterday we discovered it later. These were incoming texts. Is that something they're allowed to say in that moment? Could they have?
Oh, they could have absolutely done that. And my guess is, because they are prepared and they're very smart, his legal team, so I would imagine they would have immediately seized on that, even on redirect, and saying, hey, Johnny, they just showed you, you're right. You received, you didn't send that text. They would have been right on that. My guess is, and again, it's just a guess, is there's probably 1,000 pages of text messages that are clearly from him, and they all say incoming. And the report, that's just the way, because basically we take these phones, and how do we get all these text messages off the phones? We got to run them through a program, and the program creates a report.
Right.
And, however it labels and spits out incoming or sent or whatever is up to however this thing was input into the report, or app. So, we can't just take it as gospel to saying, oh my God, the report says incoming, therefore it was received by him. No, that's meaningless. So the fact that his lawyers never addressed it kind of makes it seem to me like an admission that he sent that. And again, then to bring it up into closing to say, look, he never denied sending any texts when he absolutely denied sending texts on the closing. So I think that was not good to remind the jury of an inconsistency in Johnny's testimony. That's the only ding I have on it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But we don't. Again, who knows what's actually going on with that text? But you're right. The jury would have known that, so we get it. But ignoring that might have been strange. Any other thoughts on Camille before we go to Ben's second part?
No, I think it was very well
Everybody else? Anybody else? Going to Ben? Here we go. We'll go into Ben. Here she is laughing, giving more notes. And exclusive. We have a very good guess of what those notes are. She's just telling them, lies! Lies!
Before Amber Heard, ladies and gentlemen, no woman ever before Amber Heard ever claimed that Mr. Depp raised a hand to her in his 58 years. And no other woman since Ms. Heard made that false claim back on May 27th, 2016, and repeated it in her December 2018 op-ed. Has any woman come forward since? This is Me Too without any Me Too. To the contrary, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Kate Moss 2 days ago testify. This is a woman who has never testified in any proceeding, ever. A very private person. Testified that Mr. Depp never abused her and that Ms. Heard lied to you. And she lied to you twice when she told you...
Objection, Your Honor. That Ms. Short.
You heard her say just 2 days ago that Mr. Depp never did that, and he never hit her, and he never kicked her. That was one of...
Objection, Your Honor. That's not what she testified to.
Exactly
we just
what
discussed that.
Overruled. Thank you, Your Honor. They're still at it. There is a world of difference between having substance abuse problems and being a physical abuser. Ms. Heard falsely accused Mr. Depp of beating her. That was her first allegation, and you know why, and you know that wasn't true. The lies have grown and metastasized over time, and they need to be stopped. And those false accusations have caused more harm to Mr. Depp than her fists ever did. And because of what she said, Mr. Depp will go to his grave knowing no matter what he does, no matter the outcome of this trial, there are people who used to look up to him who now believe that he beat a woman, which is the worst thing you can say about a man.
I can attest to that.
It's an old saying that a good reputation takes a lifetime to build, but only a second to destroy.
Facts.
Mr. Depp spent, in fact, a lifetime building his reputation as one of the greatest actors and movie stars of his generation, an iconic figure respected and liked throughout Hollywood and recognized and admired throughout the world. Quote, when you hire Johnny Depp, you get all of Johnny Depp, which includes being late, unquote. Mr. Depp,
I think they call it Johnny time, guys.
Depp wasn't canceled by Hollywood because he was sometimes late to set. He was canceled because Ms. Heard falsely accused him of domestic violence and sexual violence on the pages of the Washington Post on December 18, 2018, repeating the prior lies of May 17, 2016. Ms. Heard's claim that the op-ed is not about Mr. Depp is just another one of her many, many lies. In fact, what you have seen time and time again through the course of this trial is that Ms. Heard lies. She lies all the time about things that are important and the things that aren't important. She just can't seem to stop. And as Ms. Vasquez said, what she routinely does is she doesn't take ownership or responsibility for anything, and she has an excuse for everything. But in this courtroom, confronted with the evidence, she can't run away from her own words. As my colleague said, words matter, and Ms. Heard is condemned by her own words. It is entirely within your discretion as jurors to quantify the amount of money that constitutes fair compensation for Mr. Depp's pain and humiliation inflicted by Ms. Heard's defamation. But while Mr. Depp certainly is entitled to monetary compensation, this case, at least for Mr. Depp, has never been about money. This case for Mr. Depp has never been about money, nor is it about punishing Ms. Heard. It is about Mr. Depp's reputation and freeing him from the prison in which he has lived for the last 6 years, and it's 6 years to the day. While Mr. Depp's name will be forever tarnished by these horrendous and
yes,
it's very subtle but significant, because the jury has just been told, look, this guy's objective is to clear his name, and you're going to be asked on this verdict form, which is, a checklist basically that the jury has to go through and say yes and no to all these elements. The final part is damages. Did he suffer a monetary loss as a result of these statements, and how much? And basically choose saying, hey, you could just put $1 in there. We're cool with that. And, and it's important. It builds credibility to the case, because it's like, we're concerned about redressing the harm, and the only way we really redress the harm is to have you, the jury, after hearing all this evidence, an American jury in our whole system, saying these statements were false, and you can go put $1 on there. I don't need any money. He doesn't need any money on this case. That relieves the jury a lot of problems really speculating about why does anyone's career kind of go up and down in the movie industry, and was it because of some of these things or that Amber said or did, or was it something else? So that was very, very cleverly played right there.
Right. I imagine it might even make them want to give him more money because he's being generous. You know what I mean? And so what's funny is, and then, but as we get there, which we're going to get there, Amber didn't do that same tactic. Elaine's in there just like, yeah, you can give us, $50, take a gas, $1,000, whatever you got. We'll take it. Hey, Steph, your hand's up. Yes.
Yeah, so with what Mr. Melcher said, it reminded me of someone else. He made the Taylor Swift move. That's a Taylor Swift move.
Yeah.
If you remember,
the case for $1,
Taylor Swift went after the DJ, and for damages only requested $1, because for her, just like Johnny Depp, it's not about the money. It's about the truth, justice, and for Johnny Depp clearing his name, and for for Taylor Swift getting justice, and for asking for literally the minimum amount, which is $1. Yeah, it certainly helped in terms of Taylor Swift's case. So yeah, pulling a Taylor Swift power move. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Because I was on WFLA with Hey JB, and there was just some, because a lot of them weren't as following as mostly, or they were just annoyed by it. And there was even a line he said of just people were like, yeah, it's just a bunch of celebrities whining about trying to make their money. But I just made a point. I'm like, that's not really what it's about. It's about, one's name and credibility and ability to work again. All these things, I think, it's bigger than money by a ton. So it was a very nice move that they did there, because it is a huge one, because it just seems like he doesn't care about it. And I don't think he does. But honestly, that would make me give him more. I'd be like, well, I like that better when someone's not asking for it. It's like all the people in the chat, every time Mike drops $1,000, like, hey, I'm over here, Mike. Guys, it never works. People with money don't like that. They like to point out who deserves it, right? Who's earned it. Anyway, it's an interesting point.
False allegations. This case is about telling you his story and the truth about what really happened, which you've now heard. It is about restoring his lost reputation. It's about showing Mr. Depp's children, Lily Rose and Jack, that the truth is worth fighting for. It is. And it's about restoring Mr. Depp's name and standing in the community to the fullest extent that you can. And you can do something.
It sounds like he's losing it there, doesn't it? It does sound like he's choked up. You get that vibe, Christopher?
Oh, absolutely. And Johnny sees it. And I think I'm like tearing up myself, because anytime I think about my kid, it's everything that I do is for my child and my wife.
Right, and I was saying it earlier. I was talking to another lawyer on a show prior, but it's like it happens when you get connected to a client. I imagine there's clients you really believe in, and you create that bond. And I imagine that's very telling for a jury because look, lawyers are paid. They're there. They have to, right. You have to have a lawyer. But to see these lawyers get so emotionally connected to their client, it's these smart, intelligent people. This woman, like it's gotta mean something because we're not getting that vibe over on Amber's side.
Well, that's it. And there was a Twitter, I was trying to find the user because it was really good at the tweet about Ben Chu being like this nice uncle that would, if you were a kid, that would take you to ice cream because you were down, knowing that the ice cream wasn't going to help, but it was going to help. And he's just very relatable and trusting kind of guy. And for him to show that very slight emotion is so powerful. And because this is a client that you like, this is a party that you would like and relate to. And on Amber's side, and I was thinking if I were making her argument, as I have done in criminal defense when I started, I would sometimes go out and saying like, my client's not likable. She has not done good things. She's maybe an awful human. But that's not what this case is about. This case is about whether her statement was false. So basically, I got to relate to the jury, got to acknowledge what's out there, and then get them back to a factual analysis, a logic rather than emotion. And that's what really, honestly, Amber's team, she would have flipped out, but that's the way to win a case when you have an unlikable client.
Which again
when
points
you have
out
a likable client, then you go this direction.
And just points out this is really about a TV battle just as much as it is as a jury battle, if we're really thinking about it. But yeah, really well said. I don't think Elaine's taking Amber out for ice cream after this.
And only you, ladies and gentlemen, can do that for him.
Also, better performance. Ben Chu over Amber Heard.
You heard from Mr. Depp yesterday that he has been carrying these outlandish, outrageous stories on his back, pretty stoically, and living with them for 6 years, and waiting to be able to bring his truth out. And he has told you the truth, the unvarnished truth, even truth that pretty embarrassing. He knew that was going to happen when he brought this case. You've seen the evidence in this case over 6 long weeks, which we again thank you for. That evidence shows overwhelmingly that Ms. Heard's attempt to paint herself as a heroic survivor, an innocent survivor, and Mr. Depp as a terrifying abuser are utterly false. We ask you to please return your verdict for Mr. Depp. We ask you, we implore you to give him his name, his reputation, and his career back. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a break.
Oh yeah, it's just touching and it's emotional, and they did, I think, a really good job. And then there you have her again over there snarkily, which she said she's not doing, handing notes that it's all lies, with everybody just sort of being paid to be there. Final thoughts on this opening before we go over to Rottenborn. We have a 12-minute Rottenborn clip to get through, but give my panel a chance to respond. Anybody have a thought?
I do.
Go ahead, Linda.
I thought it was really good that he did that, a little bit of guiding of what they should look at or how they should understand what's on the questionnaire. I know Rottenborn did a little bit of that, but the way our Mr. Chu, who is absolute boss, the way he handled it, I think he did it simpler, in an easier format, and he spoke to the jury. I'm sorry, my dog's freaking out. He spoke to the jury to be very relatable, like Christopher had said, and you could feel his vibes were just more comforting. So I think he did awesome with that.
Yeah, agreed. Kim, Steph, you have any thoughts? You're gonna get through Rottenborn. Let me know.
I'll for anyone that's like, I don't know, a retro gamer, for Amber Heard, this is probably her theme tune right now. Da, 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 da. Game over. Thanks for playing. You're done. You're deceased. We've just watched your funeral. Lay down. Don't resurface again. Bye-bye.
No, Steph, she's so crazy. Her reaction is literally this. Here, let's pass some notes. He's such a liar. She is a psychopath. Kim, thought?
Her faces again today just again remind me of what I said yesterday of just like Regina George almost. It just comes through. I'm sorry. I know that's terrible, but I see it. It's just that very like entitled, like,
yes.
You know, that like she's just like, she's so confident in herself. She's got everything in the bag. She's got everybody wrapped around her, and she can't see that. I feel like I'm kind of Janice yelling in the car, like, you think everybody loves you, but everybody hates you. Nobody can stand you. Her own legal team can't stand her, and I feel like she can't even see that, and everybody else can. It's so frustrating.
It is frustrating. Also, apparently Mike did make when I say Mike, he just shows up like Batman. Thank you so much, Mike, for that amazing, that amazing support. Batman! There's been so many. I'll get to your support, I promise. I got to thank Rebecca Lynn earlier for that 100. My gosh, thank you again. I am listening to this during the audio recordings without earphones, and my 8-year-old said, hey, that lady, Amber, is a bad woman. So even an 8-year-old can make the correct conclusion that she is a horrible. Thank you so much for your coverage. Thank you so much for your support. All you guys support. And as we wrap up our finale coming in, I appreciate you guys. Press Start Productions said she showed us the monster, and the monster's name is Amber Heard. And then Bobby Cat, what's up, Bobby? I owe you a call. I know. Sorry it took so long. Thanks, Andy and crew. I can't watch trial due to work. I rely on these streams during my breaks. I hope her and her sister get help. They both have kids. That's what's scary, Team Johnny. Well said. I see a lot more comments. I promise we'll scroll through some of them. But before we do that, let's watch Rottenborn. Now, I know you guys hate Rottenborn because clearly the poll is showing it. 95%. Yes, Steph?
Andy, I think Mr. Melcher needs to bounce.
Oh, sorry. Melcher, let's let you go. 95% believe Ben and Camille. Are you surprised?
No. I mean, it was very well done. Rottenborn, you know, I mean, you'll see he's going to score a couple points. And but yeah, very fun being part of this process with all of you, everyone online. I mean, it's just been an incredible experience. So, you know, after this, we go into verdict watch, and we're gonna have to wait. My guess is we're probably not going to hear this verdict until Thursday, is my guess. They don't do it on Monday, so it's Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, day 3. Sounds just about right to me, but we'll see. I will be on ABC Prime tonight at 7:45 Eastern or 4:45 Pacific, just giving a recap on over there. So you can watch that live if you want, or afterwards I'll post it up there. But thanks for having me part of this show again today, Andy. And
yeah, Christopher, my man, thank you so much for making the time. I remember when this all started, you're like, I don't know, but then you got so invested, and I'm so glad you did because your expertise has been so valuable, and I do think they're watching. So many people are watching, and I'm so glad they got to see you. I hope they've gone and followed you. We got 30. We got more people watching than are following Christopher right now. Can we please get them up on these followers? I know a lot of you don't like Twitter; it's pretty toxic, but Christopher's feed is never. So go support Christopher over there on Twitter.
Let's get him to 40,000 followers.
Let's get him some followers because I love his takes, and we're so lucky to have him. But Christopher, you know we love you. You're such an amazing gentleman and so kind. We can speak. Steph and I can speak reality of meeting this man in person. I know a lot of people don't like lawyers, but man, you are one of the good ones. So thanks for all you do. Enjoy your day, and thanks so much for bringing all your brain to this case and letting us keep asking you all these questions. We really, really appreciate it, man.
Thanks. We'll
enjoy your weekend. 3-day weekend. Bye. Enjoy. Always a pleasure. He is such a pro. We're so lucky to have this man again. Come on, guys. Go give him a follow. You're going to get some fantastic stuff over there. Did I see Lewis in there? Sorry, Lewis. You got to keep message me on Telegram. That's where I send out the link. So hit me up, Lewis, if you're still watching. I'd love to have you on. Didn't mean to not have you here. But while we wait for Lewis and others, let's get to Ben Rottenborn. As much as we hate, look, he's doing his job, and I think we got to watch for that. At the same time, he frustrated me with some of these arguments. Let's go through this together, guys, shall we?
In trying to convince you that Mr. Depp has carried his burden of proof in proving that he was never abusive to Amber on even one occasion, think about the message that Mr. Depp and his attorneys are sending to Amber, and by extension to every victim of domestic abuse everywhere. If you didn't take pictures, it didn't happen. If you did take pictures, they're fake. If you didn't tell your friends, you're lying. And if you did tell your friends, they're part of the hoax. If you didn't seek medical treatment, you weren't injured. If you did seek medical treatment, you're crazy. If you do everything that you can to help your spouse, the person that you love, rid himself of the crushing drug and alcohol abuse that spins him into an abusive, rage-filled monster, you're a nag. And if you finally decide that enough is enough, you've had enough of the fear, enough of the pain, and you have to leave to save yourself, you're a gold digger. That is the message that Mr. Depp is asking you to send. But he doesn't stop there.
Oh, well, I'm going to stop there because, oh my God. Ah! I don't like that. Kim, go ahead. What do you think of that argument here?
When I saw that live, I had to pause it for a minute because I was so angry. I don't like it when people speak on behalf of an entire group of people. I think you can only really speak for yourself, and he can only speak as the defense of Amber Heard, which at points today I think he did well. But couldn't so much of what he just said be applied to Johnny?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a stupid argument to make. Because however difficult it is right now for women to come forward, which yes, it is. It's horrible. It's a lot less likely that a man will be believed. And we need to start, really looking at everything and believing people, but looking at evidence and not destroying people, And I hate that he took that stance on it because I think it's a disservice. I've said from the beginning, I don't think this is a case of, don't believe women. I think this is a case of believe people. Listen to the whole story. Gender has nothing to do with it. And that's not saying that gender violence isn't real. It's just, it can happen to anybody. No matter your gender identity, doesn't matter.
I'm just glad that as the man on this show, and so many watching, that so many women have finally wised up to that. Because, yeah, look, I think there's a lot of men who lie. There are. There's a lot of men who've done some shady things and try to cover it up. Not going to deny that at all. I did some shady stuff, right? We all make mistakes. We all do things. But women can too. And we have to be wiser and realize that we can't just trust one whole gender and not the other. So to know that we're at a place where so many people are finally seeing that, and that Johnny was able to open our eyes up to that, to know that there are a lot of male victims. We've had so many of you guys call that have been through relationships with women who have just been abusive. This idea that that's not possible is just moronic to me. I can't even fathom it. So for him to go out there and say, God, that line was just so frustrating. I mean, again, it frustrates me. But the state of the world we live in, he's playing the game, right? He's doing his job, and he's trying to find something to make these people, because there might be someone in that jury who agrees with him. Yeah, we must believe all women. It's still a narrative. Look, do you guys know this? Do you guys know this lovely woman, Dr. Charlotte Proudman? Every woman that laughed at Amber Heard or shared a meme of her crying, just remember you're complicit in re-abusing her over and over again. What's more of you will be victims of, in your lifetime. How would you feel if people mocked you? This woman's like super proud Amber Heard supporter. Don't want to keep promoting her, but it's so brutal.
She completely misses the point. Whoever this Dr. Charlotte Proudman is, you're completely missing the freaking point. Because she's going down this whole narrative of believe all accusers, believe all women blindly. And hang on a minute, there is nothing wrong whatsoever with using your mental faculties, your brain cells between your ear holes, and critically thinking about, okay, what are the allegations? Right, fair enough. What's the evidence? Well, the allegations aren't matching up with the evidence, and the evidence aren't matching up with the allegations. So I'm sorry, someone is lying here, and the evidence is the evidence. So it's the source of the allegations that seems to be lying, i.e., in my opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, Amber Heard. For me to turn round as a survivor of SA and say, Amber Heard, in my opinion, is a liar, and this is why, and mock the hell out of her, yeah, I'll do that all day long. do not dare freaking turn around to someone like me, because to me, she's addressing me as well, addressing everyone here. Don't you dare turn around and say to me, I'm doing a disservice to victims, I'm mocking victims, this, that, and the other. When in my heart and hearts, being an actual true member of the survivorship, I do not see her as a sister arm in arms. I do not see her as a member of the survivorship whatsoever. Her allegations, the way she is, it does not make sense to true victims. Every single true victim is coming out and saying exactly the same thing about Miss Amber Heard here. So Dr. Charlotte Proudman, you can take a running, flying jump onto the nearest cactus backside first. She makes me angry. Angry as hell. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's talking out of her backside. Sorry, I didn't realise I was going to rant there, but I just turned into one.
Oh, I knew you were gonna. I just keyed it right up. I sat back, got the popcorn, and I was ready.
Fair.
I just threw out the step head with the cactus is the best combo if you
there
guys
you
can
go.
do it.
Yes.
No, you know
There's
what,
always a
Steph?
cactus that appears in a Steph rant now.
You being able to like funnel your anger into being so well said is such a gift, and I'm so happy that there's people in this world like you that can do that, because like I don't have that ability. I just shut down because I get so upset. But I agree with you 100%. 100%.
We have to use what we've been through as a strength. And that's something, Kim, that in time I hope that you learn, that it's fuel, energy to give you strength, A, to combat what you've been through, but B, to combat the absolute bullshit out there in terms of how people talk about our survivorship community and how they pretend to be a mouthpiece for our community. Like Amber Heard, the lawyer at one point turns around in their closing argument or rebuttal and says something along the lines of, you know, she is speaking on behalf of the survivorship community. I'm sorry, but what? No. She ain't speaking for us. She ain't a part of our community. We do not claim her. She is not, in our opinion, a victim of the allegations that she is making against Johnny Depp. We do not see that. It is not happening. So how dare she turn around and be like, yeah, I'm mouthpiece, I'm representing victims, survivorship, this, that, and the other. She did not get a membership card. I'll tell you that right now, guys.
But the other thing I was just going to say too, if it's okay, I have to say really quickly, is when she has the line of saying, how would you feel if people mocked you? People who've been through it. You know, the day that she testified and it got really nasty and we decided to just open the phone lines and let people call in, the stories that we heard, the stories that were told in our telegram of people who had been through situations where they were similar to what Amber had described had happened to her, and we heard the realities of what it was like for the fallout for those people, that was a mockery. What she did was a mockery. Not us laughing at her going, my dog stepped on a bee. There's no comparison.
My dog stepped on a bee.
It's not the same thing. It's ridiculous. And I think that's why like that gets me so angry, because it's like, don't tell me about being mocked. Because I feel like I've watched this woman mock my pain and so many other people's pain through this whole process. So I'm gonna laugh at the bee. I'm gonna laugh about some of this stuff, because if I don't laugh, I'm just gonna cry and I'm gonna have panic attacks like I had that day and all that type of stuff. Like, don't tell me how to process it. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous, in my opinion.
Getting back to Rottenborn's closing, well said, Steph. Here we go. I want to hear the rest of his statements, because I knew that would get a lot of you upset. It got me upset.
Because in Mr. Depp's world, you don't leave Mr. Depp. And if you do, he will start a campaign of global humiliation against you, a smear campaign that lasts to this very day. He will do everything he can to destroy your life, to destroy your career. That is what they're saying, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what they're trying to get you, the jury, to be an accomplice to. But it's not surprising, because Mr. Depp cannot and will not take responsibility for his own actions. It's always someone else's fault. This is the op-ed piece. I'm not going to read it to you again. You heard me read it to you in opening statements. And I would urge you, when you're in the deliberation room, read it. Read it again. And I know we focused on it, you know, here and there over the course of the trial, but the vast majority of this trial has not focused on these words, on this piece. This is obviously the paper edition. There's the online edition as well. Now we get a chance to discuss with you exactly what you have to find about this article. It is Mr. Depp's burden to prove each and every one of these elements. If he cannot, Ms. Heard wins. If he cannot prove each and every one of these elements under the burden of proof that's applicable, Ms. Heard wins. A hyperlink is not republication. Forwarding a link on does not mean that you broadcast the statement again, but that's what they want to make you think. The only way, and the jury instructions that you have, and we don't need to read through them in detail now, but the republication instruction says that merely linking to an article does not amount to republication, but adding content to a linked article may constitute republication. You must determine whether any added content was intended to reach a new audience, and if you find any content added to the hyperlink was intended to reach a new audience, it constitutes a republication.
That's what she did when she made the tweet. She added new content. I don't even know why he went through this.
There was no content added to the article. This is not adding new content.
Yes,
but
it is.
Yes, it is.
Why? This was so idiotic, and where you start really lose me, especially just on the logic. Who the fuck is this paragraph above the link? That thank God Camille had that extra time to really hammer it even home harder. Of course, this is new content. And she didn't attempt to change the headline. She shared the headline and made it clear. I published this op-ed title down below. She absolutely republished it.
It's no surprise, because this whole case is about blaming Amber Heard for things she didn't do. But that's what Mr. Depp does. It's what he's always done. Blame other people, refuse to take accountability. But the problem for him here is that he's running headlong into the United States Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be very clear. If Amber was abused by Mr. Depp even one time, then she wins. One time. Let's look at the evidence. You heard Mr. Depp define abuse from his own mouth. He admitted all of that when he talked about his childhood. As they referenced, his mother called him one-eyed because he had a lazy eye. And he said that that was worse than the beatings that he took. If he abused her one time, Amber wins. Actually, if he fails to prove that he never abused her one time, Amber wins. So let's take a look at some of the evidence. This was one of the first messages shown to Mr. Depp in his cross-examination. This is a message to Paul Bettany, his drug buddy, early on in their relationship, when he says, "Let's burn Amber. Let's drown her before we burn her. I will fuck her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she is dead." Some of the most vile, disgusting language that you could ever imagine. That is what he said to her at the beginning of the relationship.
Now, he didn't say that to her. I wanted to make sure we made a point about this. Here's all the evidence, right, of him doing all this abuse. These are texts to friends. I'm sorry. She would never even known had we not gone into this trial. He didn't publish these. He didn't. This was something he said in private. So I'm sorry. I disagree with that definition. That's not abuse. That's talking poorly about somebody that you don't like behind the closed doors. And honestly, I think he had a right to, given all that she was doing to him, especially if she is indeed lying. What is this? He didn't say that to her. He said it to Paul Bettany. That's such bullshit, Rottenborn.
Hopefully that cunt's rotting corpse is decomposing.
Oh, well, that didn't get bleeped.
In the fucking trunk of a Honda Civic.
Gotta bleep that portion.
Ladies and gentlemen, these words are a window into the heart and mind of America's favorite pirate. This is the real John.
I gotta clip that.
Words.
I'm gonna have to clip that portion. What was that? 125, 125-ish C word. Sorry for the weird edit, but yeah, the C word slipped in. I'm trying to make sure we don't get completely demonetized. But yeah, he said something pretty. Hopefully that C's rotten in the decomposing effing trunk of a Honda Civic.
Ladies and gentlemen, these words are a window into the heart and mind of America's favorite pirate.
Oh God, he was so excited to drop that one. He had been prepping that one.
That in the mirror.
In the heart and mind. What do you think of this one, honey? That's the real heart and mind of America's favorite pirate. He was so proud to get that little piece out. But I think I would have been out there if I was Johnny. I'd be making a note saying lies. But anyway, here we go.
This is the real Johnny Depp. This is the real Johnny Depp after Miss Heard decided that she couldn't take it.
This is about the fish market again.
Decided that she needed to leave him. And I'm not going to reread this whole text to you. But this is where he says she's begging for global humiliation. And she's going to get it. It's one of the only promises to Miss Heard that Mr. Depp has ever kept. Let's see the monster. Let's see the monster in the flesh.
Can't believe it.
They played this again. When they played this again after everything we had already heard, watching it again, I felt even more dirty watching it and knowing her intentions that she sold it. It was so weird. In fact, I don't really want to watch it again. We've seen it before. We know what happens. But there's so much of her just secretly trying not to get caught. But I do want to hear the snicker because it is clear as day. Everyone quiet for a second. Lift up your audio. Listen for the laugh.
Oh, really? Really?
And it's also, you didn't do this? She lies on the tape.
That's crazy.
There's the mega pint.
Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy.
Have you drunk this whole thing this morning?
Oh, you got this going. You got this going?
I just started it.
Oh, really?
I just started it.
Really? See that shit on me, motherfucker?
I didn't. You were smashing shit.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Not until she started recording. She was totally trying to trick him and get him, as she said. He's like, oh, so you're trying to catch me. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. You were smash. No, he didn't smash anything until it started recording. Another lie she's caught in. He goes, ass. And she's like, heh. Listen for it.
Smashing shit.
And you can see it right there. There, you totally. Ha! I got him. Let's get that off the TMZ ASAP.
You see Miss Heard laughing in that?
Yes. Did you guys? Well, we might not have seen it, but did you guys hear her laughing in that, guys? Am I crazy?
Yeah. Oh no, there's a snicker.
So he's gonna try and say that she didn't.
She's not laughing in that. Mr. Depp in his courtroom right now is laughing and making snide remarks as that video is being played, but it's not a laughing matter. Who does that? Because when he's sober and sweet, you've never loved anything more. But when he mixes the drugs and he mixes drinks, he turns into this man. You've seen it before. You're praying it won't happen again, but deep down you know it will. You know that that man will come out. You know that monster will come out, and you want him to change. Imagine watching your husband, the person you love, behaving violently that way, like a wild animal. That is abuse. That's abuse. And their response is, she sold it to TMZ, which she didn't. There's no evidence of, and she was on a plane. The only evidence suggests she was on an international flight when Mr. Tremaine testified that they received it and it was validated within something like 15 minutes, which could only have happened by the person who sent it. Miss Heard was in the air. She didn't send it to TMZ. She never leaked anything to TMZ, as you heard from her own mouth. And then, on the way to filming the Keith Richards documentary, after a multi-hour argument, he grabbed their dog, their teacup Yorkie, and holds the dog, Boo, out of the window of a moving car, and he's howling like an animal, Miss Heard said, while holding the dog out of the car. That is abuse, ladies and gentlemen. That's abuse. Oh, if he didn't abuse Miss Heard in front of his 4 bodyguards, then it must have never happened. That's essentially what they're asking you to believe. That's ridiculous. That's not the way domestic violence works. Nothing but an enabler. The same with Sean Bett, his head of security, who's been sitting in this courtroom for the past 6 weeks. He's right there. Mr. Bett was the one who testified to you that when Mr. Depp has a few drinks of alcohol, he said, and I wrote this down, he said it's like the rest of us drinking sparkling water. I don't think that kitchen video that we just saw was like you or I when we drink sparkling water. This is the same Sean Bett who said that on the evening of May 21st, 2016, which Elaine will talk about in a little bit, he said Mr. Depp may have bumped something off a table. You've seen the pictures. You'll see him again. Just like Travis McGivern said that Mr. Depp rearranged Miss Heard's closet. You've seen the pictures. You'll see him again. Just like Tara Roberts in the Bahamas, who tried to blame everything on Miss Heard and only under cross-examination admitted that Mr. Depp passed out face down in the sand underneath a hammock and his son Jack found him there. The witnesses that Mr. Depp has paraded up here, they're here in person because they're on his payroll, almost all of them. And they're telling you whatever they think they need to tell you to get you to take Mr. Depp's side, just as we previewed they would do in the opening. And there's been testimony about what happened to cut the finger off, but frankly, it's irrelevant to your deliberations here. Amber could have chopped it off with an axe, and it has nothing to do with whether or not Mr. Depp abused her. But we all know she didn't. We all know that his fingers weren't curled and someone was standing with a half-gallon vodka bottle from about where that canopy is and threw it, and it somehow managed to damage just the bottom of the finger and leave the nail fully intact. We all know that didn't. Mr. Depp knows it didn't happen. We'll see some evidence of that. But here he's writing on the mirror again, and they try to blame her and say that she wrote "Call Carly Simon." She didn't write that. Who was the lunatic in the house? Who was writing everywhere?
Guys,
no
hold on, I meant to pause. Who's the lunatic
know.
in the house, do you think? What a loaded question. I thought you're not supposed to ask questions you don't know the answers to if you're a lawyer. My God, who's the lunatic in the house?
And do you know that you've got a little jig that you play, and all I've got in my head at the moment is, who is the biggest lunatic? And it ain't Johnny.
It's not.
Here we go.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Who is the biggest lunatic? It's Amber Heard. It's Amber Turd, without a doubt. It's Amber Turd. What? My God.
Can I just, while we're paused, can I just say something quickly? First of all, again, I don't think it's going to make it to the cut, but he referenced Paul Bettany again. He said his drug friend, Paul Bettany. And then he brings Boo into it. I'm like, can we please just leave Boo and Paul out of this? These poor people, this poor dog and this poor person that can't speak for themselves, just like leave them alone. This is so dumb. I feel like it's so punching down. It's ridiculous. Also, can you not go on the internet when you're on a plane?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, there's no Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi on a plane. You pay extra, but I'm sure she can get Wi-Fi on a plane.
You can get Wi-Fi on a plane. When I was coming over to Vegas,
absolutely
there was
can.
Wi-Fi.
You
I
pay
had
a
to
little
pay
bit.
for it,
Yeah.
and it did work. British shiz whiz.
The video had to be, confirmed. Like the guy said, it's confirmed by the owner to his higher up, and then it lands on his desk. So clearly it was confirmed by the owner, and clearly she's the owner. She's taking the film on her phone. It's just like, once they start trying to deny all that, it's like, come on. Like, we know how it works.
The defense of being like, she couldn't have sent it. She was on a plane. What?
Not buying it. Send the email before you get on the plane, and then by the time she arrives, bing, they got it.
Bing.
Or you pay for Wi-Fi on the plane, and you do it yourself. I'm assuming she's flying on a quality airline.
Oh yeah, she's paying
in
for
first
Wi-Fi.
class.
She clearly has the extra money still.
Get that? She had $7 million. Here we go.
Until she was told. More abuse on the right. Imagining having a painting area where you're drawing two canvases, and you and your husband get in a fight, and while you are asleep that night, he takes the bloody stump of his finger and dips it in paint and destroys your paintings.
While you're asleep that night? You mean while he's cut off your finger and screaming at you and won't let him have peace? What is he talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen, that's abuse.
No, it's not. Like the mountains of evidence. That's what he loses for because he painted on canvas with blood. Because she cut it off. Like he painted on the with a finger she cut off. Oh yeah, okay, got it.
Sends a message that no matter what you do as an abuse victim, you always have to do more. No matter what you document, you always have to document more. No matter whom you tell, you always have to tell more people. No matter how honest you are about your own imperfections and your own shortcomings in a relationship, you need to be perfect in order for people to believe you. Don't send that message. That's what he wants you to send. Amber utilized her attorney, Eric George, to make sure that she was following the law. Mr. Depp used his attorney, Adam Waldman, as an attack dog to defame Amber and to fulfill Depp's promise to her of global humiliation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to tell Mr. Depp that this was his last chance. Tell him to move on with his life. Tell him to let Amber move on with hers. Stand up for the freedom of speech. Stand up for the First Amendment. This trial is about so much more than Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. It's about the freedom of speech. Stand up for it, protect it, and reject Mr. Depp's claims against Amber.
Oh, it's about the freedom of speech to basically say whatever I want, even if it destroys a man's life. Oh, that is horrifying. That's their final argument. Steph, do you like
But
them blaming
Johnny's
that?
not allowed to.
Yeah, Linda, go ahead. What do you think of
Oh, I'm
freedom of
sorry.
speech argument? What
I
do
was
you think?
just gonna say it's just crazy that he could say that, stand up there, like of course we all want freedom of speech, but Johnny can't have his freedom of speech. Like come on, like everything that team says, they're deflecting it and saying, only Amber can have her say.
It's very, very crazy. All right, we just got through Rottenborn, thank God.
You'll hear from Ms. Coretta Hobbs about the counterclaim.
Oh, here comes. Let's. Oh. Too much to watch.
I get to say good afternoon. I'm going to go really fast and try to go as quick as I can so that you can get a break from us and go make your decision. I know you're probably itching to do it at this point.
What a waste of time in the beginning. Like, again, you just wasted time. She's so good at wasting. Just get to it.
Trial was July 2020. The process ended on November 2, 2020, and his damages stopped then. He can't get reputational damages. He can't get his legacy back for his children. He can't get anything after that day from you. You can't restore his reputation. You can't give.
Yes, they can. What is she talking about?
Him anything. They didn't tell you that, but the court told you that. And he came in here and lied to you and said he's here to get his reputation back. Here we are. 6 weeks of your time, precious time, for what? For nothing. Only to go after Amber. He's going after Amber for nothing because he wants to put her through this again, the third time.
Speculation.
So we're fighting back. We don't want anything else. We want to leave Amber alone and let her get on with her life.
And $100 million.
And raise her child. We're asking.
And raise her child. Oh, don't bring up the child.
You to do that, to compensate her, to be fair and hold him responsible so he stops. You've heard Mr.
Compensate her fairly.
We don't want anything,
so
but compensate her fairly.
Compensate her fairly so he stops.
Mr. Depp say, well, why aren't you suing Mr. Waldman? Isn't that typical of Mr. Depp? He doesn't take responsibility for anything. So now he's going to.
Yes, he did. He took it for the drug use. He took it for so much. What is she?
Blame his lawyer. But the evidence is very clear on all three statements, and we'll show them to you in a minute. You didn't hear any stories that differed from that with Mr. Depp. He didn't get on the stand and say, no, this didn't happen, to at least a couple of them. And he can't in Australia. He can't remember anything, likely. But if you just look at the pictures of the destruction in that house, I mean, Amber's testimony, she was sitting near him in the trial. Adam Waldman threw that newspaper down in front of her defiantly. That's actual malice.
What? No, it's not.
Johnny Depp has deep-seated anger issues that have nothing to do with Amber. He remembered even back.
Amber doesn't, though, guys. Amber's totally sweet. She's a saint. She's not ever angry.
Back when Johnny was married to his sister-in-law, he had extreme jealousy, even back then. A few more things from Mr. Waldman. He's the one that, after the UK trial, went to the LAPD with a notebook full of things and tried to get perjury charges against Amber. But he then went to a German newspaper and said, Amber is being investigated by the NYPD, or the LAPD, for perjury. Do you remember that? That's malice. He also admitted that he speaks to that umbrella guy, and you'll see that one text in there. That umbrella guy is the big lead of Johnny Depp's, positive...
You mean the truth?
Social media that is putting all the negative out on Amber. And he also...
Oh, that's all he's doing. He's just putting out the negative. There's no truth or facts to what Umbrella Guy's doing. He's just negative.
So ended up getting knocked out of Twitter because he was abusing Amber. So now we'll go to the second counterclaim statement. Now this is May 21. They're saying that Amber got together with her friends. They decided they were going to set Johnny up, and so they called the police, and they tried to make up this whole story, get him arrested, but the police said there's no evidence here, and went away, and they said, darn. And so they spilled wine, and they, busted up the place, and they called 911 and tried again to get Johnny charged. That's what this says. But what were the facts? He comes over, and he is on a tear about feces in the bed from a month ago, and he just won't let it go.
Who was gonna let that go? There's human feces in my bed, Elaine. Oh, just let it go, Johnny. What the hell is she? He just won't let go of these human feces in his bed. Oh, he's obsessed with why are there feces in the bed?
There's somebody put that feces in the bed a month ago. That was his spin. So she gets Io Tillett on the phone. He's going, they thought, this is ridiculous. Of course nobody did. And by the way, Boo has this huge problem. Of course it was Boo. You know, he's always doing this. Then he throws the phone at Amber. Amber screams out and says, ow, ow, you just threw the cell phone at me. It hurts. Io says, Amber, get out of there. And he's screaming loudly 10 times, Amber, Amber, Amber. Then his bodyguards hear this. They come in. They break it up. You know, after that he goes and he has to. You know, he always leaves them. You know. Then what does he do? He rearranges the furniture. We didn't get the first police officer, so we'll rough up the place and make a second one. You'll see. You did hear from detective.
Wait, what did she just say? He rearranged the furniture for the cops? What on earth is she saying?
Sandanaga. That's the domestic violence.
At this point, you could tell Ben and team are like trying to be respectful and not. It's because it's rude to do this in the closing. They're allowed to say things, but she's just vehemently lying and making shit up. So he calls.
So did you talk to Mr. Waldman? Did you talk to Mr. Waldman?
Let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail.
Objection, Your Honor.
Somehow.
She's go, and then he's like, they ruled against you and you're still doing it.
She wasn't.
Was it Mike that edited this one?
Yes.
So
Mike, again, shout out to you, mate.
Say that any of the witnesses admitted that Adam.
So she has to correct herself because she's caught because she's doing it.
That any of the witnesses admitted.
I didn't say any of the witnesses admitted this.
Adam Waltman planted that. I'm saying
it.
He planted it. That's me arguing the planting.
That's me just arguing and making shit up is what she just said to the jury.
She wasn't wearing any makeup. She was natural. She wasn't wearing a stitch of makeup. Every one of them says it. It's the exact same thing. Well, why would you say that? She's an actor. She's not going to go outside her house without putting makeup on.
She
and
made
if
a
she
face.
has bruises, why on
Amber's
earth?
like, what, Elaine?
She's an actor. She's not going to go outside her house without putting makeup on. And if she has bruises, why on earth would she not put makeup on? Why on?
Because she's natural beauty. That's the one thing I'll give her. She doesn't need makeup. That's why everyone's.
Wait a minute.
Her own friend said it, Elaine. Like, go ahead, Steph.
She's making the assumption that every actor, actress, whatever in that profession, when they go outside, they have to put makeup on. They always put makeup on. That is what her logic is that she's just mentioned there. Sorry, Elaine, but have you looked at Amber Heard's favorite news site, aka TMZ? They have pictures all the time of actors and actresses out in the real wide world without a stick of makeup on. Like, it happens. Oh my goodness. She's insane. It's like, Dan. She's probably thinking to herself, Dan, where did I lose my law degree? Because quite clearly she's lost it. Dad, I shouldn't have gone to freaking law school in Antarctica. Those penguins proper stiffed me one. I need to get me money back. Taught by penguins, in my opinion. What the hell is this sideshow?
Penguins. You gotta go, Linda?
Yeah.
All right. Listen, thank you for being here, Linda. Always love
Thank
Linda.
you.
Send out Linda's link tree. Thank you for all your help. We'll have you back next week as we figure out what else we're talking about. We will continue Johnny topics, obviously, but lots more. Linda, enjoy your weekend. Thank you for everything you do.
You too. Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
Oh, she's so lucky she doesn't have to watch the end of this Elaine thing.
Want to cover up those bruises? It makes no sense. Do you honestly think she's just going to walk around for the week with her bruises exposed? Of course she's not.
Well, then why'd she go out for those moments? I kind of do.
Remember Bonnie Jacobs, the therapist. Dr. Hughes and Dr. Spiegel testified about Bonnie Jacobs' notes. And remember that I was holding that, you don't get to see them. And the abuse is documented in those notes, is what Dr. Hughes testified to, both physical and sexual.
Objection, Your Honor.
That Dr. Hughes testified to that.
Dr. Hughes did testify to that. No, she didn't.
No, but
When I
Hughes
asked
just
Dr.
said that there's notes from Bonnie Jacobs that they don't get to see, but the notes say that this happened. In a closing argument.
But if you're relying on Dr. Hughes Lies' notes, I'm sorry, you're screwed. Because you don't fill them out properly to begin with. There's bits that are missing, just like what's in her head.
It's another therapist that didn't take the stand, I don't think. It's just another therapist that the notes aren't in evidence, but she's just saying, so there was this therapist and she said this. That
I
these
thought they were
notes.
she was talking about Dr. Hughes
but you don't get to see those notes. But
You
I
don't
just
get to
want
see
let you
them,
know
but I'm
that
going
it's
to tell you
in
what's in
those
them
notes.
and make it up. These notes that we actually weren't allowed to talk about, I'm going to bring them up, even though I'm not supposed to, and tell you what's in those notes, even though we obviously weren't allowed to. That's literally what she just did.
Curry,
But they're
she
there, believe me.
reviewed those notes. She said yes, but she had no comment. And
Your Honor, objection.
That was in there. And when I asked Dr. Curry, she said she had reviewed them, but she had no comment. But what would Amber Heard's motive be for creating a hoax? That's a big question here. They call her a gold digger. She obviously couldn't have done it for the money. California is a no-fault.
She couldn't have. Oh my, Elaine! I almost need to react to this again for tomorrow's more video. Like, what? She could. How have you proved she couldn't have done it for the money? Well, let's hear what she attempts to try and swing.
State and community property. She doesn't need an excuse. And she gets 50% of whatever he earns during the time of the marriage. She could have just said, I don't like you anymore. I'm going to divorce you.
Your
She would
Honor,
have been
we're
entitled
going
to
to
that.
object again.
Amber is entitled to at least 31.5. What does she take? $7 million. What does she do with the $7 million? She gives it to charity.
$7 million tax-free, remember? Tax-free, right? Wasn't that what she got without tax liability?
Or she intends to give it to charity. Now, they make much ado about the pledge versus donation. At the end of the day, she's made $1 million in payments to them, but then she got sued here and hasn't been able to because she spent $6 million in attorney's fees.
No, what? What? For $6 million suddenly in attorney's fees, which she's not allowed to admit that either. That's from what I've read. That's also a no-no. And this shit, the money for 14 months.
Who would blame a woman for giving $1 million in charitable donations?
Who would blame a woman?
That sounds like psychological abuse to me.
Sorry, just
Sorry, this was in the middle of that quote. Wait, that's psychological abuse is who would blame someone who gave $1 million to charity? Yeah, what? Sorry, Steph.
convenient that $6 million figure, because just over 1 million was donated to charity out of the 7 from the divorce settlement. So, oh my goodness, yeah, she pledged, she didn't donate, but she will donate. It's just the remaining 6 million's gone now because Johnny brought the fight to her and she was forced to pay that 6 million in legal fees. So now it's going to take just a little bit longer for the sick kids with cancer and the minorities that need legal representation to basically reap the benefits of her pledging. Yeah.
All right, we have almost there. We've almost made it through.
Mr. Depp got on the stand and says he does it anonymously, but Mr. Mandel would have been the one writing the checks, and he says that didn't happen.
What? Johnny Depp gives money anonymously to charity, but Mr. Mandel handles the checks, and he didn't say that happened, so he must not give to charity. Clearly, guys, that's how I deduce it. Johnny Depp doesn't give to charity. I'm going to call a big bullshit on that one, too.
I promised you I was going to go pretty fast here. Ron Schnell, the young Sheldon, I call him the Doogie Howser, our expert on IT, took you through and tracked how they tracked the defamatory statements, the language from the defamatory statements, how that went through the social media and the negative social media. And it kept...
You mean the lies? Yeah, I remember that.
Going and kept going.
How it kept going and kept going. No, there was a very clear chart that very clearly showed it did not keep going. It spiked when other more noteworthy things came out that exposed Amber and had nothing to do with Adam Wald's statements.
And he tracked all the way until a few months ago over 2.36 million negative tweets, negative Instagrams,
Negative Instagrams, i.e. hashtag justice for Johnny Depp, is definitive proof that It's all because of Adam Waldman's statements. I mean, I just can't even.
Give social media's comments about Amber that relate specifically to the information that was in those 3 defamatory statements. The most significant part of that, though, is that Aquaman was the biggest blockbuster ever for DC Films. It was the biggest. It was over $1 billion. This was her opportunity for her star, and then everything shut down. She wasn't allowed to do publicity for The Stand. She wasn't allowed to, she hasn't been allowed to do anything for L'Oreal. She got shut down from her charitable organizations. And instead of
because of her own actions,
career trajectory of the other comparators, who all went way up, and by the way, all the experts admit
not Hollywood,
that career trajectory went well for all the rest of them, and she's the only one that didn't have it. And the reason is because of the defamatory statements. But probably
what? The reason was the defamation. No one said that. No one said. They've been trying to make the jury think that. But this word salad gobbledygook of blah blah. Well, clearly Amber was on the same trajectory as Aquaman himself, and as Chris Pine, who's in Star Trek, and as in all these people that listed that were nowhere near the league of Amber Heard. But no, obviously she was on the trajectory to be just as big, even though clearly Warner Brothers was worried about having her because she had no chemistry with the star, because she wasn't that good. She was fine. I'll say it. She was fine. I didn't mind her until I knew who she was. But my God, this idea that she was supposed to be the next Ana de Armas, it just again goes to her narcissism and everything about it.
The most compelling testimony that you could ever hear was from Amber yesterday.
The most compelling testimony you could ever hear.
And when she took...
Dude, I thought Ben Chu's thing just now was more emotional than Amber's.
The stand before. It has destroyed her life. This has consumed her. She's getting death threats. Her daughter, they're threatening to put her daughter in a microwave, for God's sakes. No human being should be put through this. Now, Johnny Depp sued for $100 million, or for $50 million. And we sent a message back saying, fine, then we're going to sue for $100 million because look at what you've done to her. But we do ask that you fully and fairly compensate Amber for everything that she's been through.
Oh my God, the madness. It's not about the money, but we hope you'll pay us a lot of money because we need the money.
Yeah, it's not about the money, but it is about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That is basically, in a nutshell, Elaine. Like, she don't make sense, and she contradicts herself. It ain't about money, but it is about the money. That's Elaine in a nutshell, guys. If anyone is thinking of getting the law degree from the University of Antarctica, from Dr. Penguin, may I suggest you have a look at Elaine, and it might deter you. Maybe Yale, maybe Harvard, like an Ivy League school. Yeah, maybe not Antarctica.
All right, I knew this was going to be a long show, so I'm trying to get through it. We have another 8 minutes of Camille's reverse, which I think we need to hear to, put a better taste in our mouth.
Lied to you. Mr. Depp owns his mistake. He owns all of them. You saw him do it on the stand in a raw and powerful way. But in this trial, Ms. Heard has been confronted with her lies and the damage she has caused, and she cannot take any responsibility for what she has done. And you've seen the story, her story, it doesn't hold up. You've watched her performance on the stand. You saw her get caught in lie after lie. The time has come for those lies to come to an end. The time has come for you, the jury, to decide the truth. Words matter. And this case is about Ms. Heard's words. Ms. Heard and her attorneys have talked a lot in this trial about the First Amendment. They've talked about the importance of free speech, and we agree. I'm a lawyer. Of course I agree with that. But the First Amendment doesn't protect lies that hurt and defame people. And there's a difference. Ms. Heard has no right to tell the world that Mr. Depp physically or sexually assaulted her when that isn't true. That's not protected speech. Our U.S. Constitution doesn't protect that speech. And it is a core value of American society that you are innocent until proven guilty. There is a presumption of innocence in this country. A person's life cannot and should not be destroyed by a baseless charge and no opportunity to defend yourself. That's why Mr. Depp had to bring this claim. Ms. Heard was never going to stop calling him an abuser. The only way to clear his name was to stand up in this court, where both sides are bound by the same rules of American law. A jury would be tasked, you, ladies and gentlemen, would be tasked with deciding once and for all Ms. Heard's lies could be exposed in a fair and impartial process. Ms. Heard apparently decided she needed to sue him back. Because there were no statements made by Mr. Depp on which she could base a claim, she sued him based on statements made by one of his lawyers, Adam Waldman, calling Ms. Heard's accusations of abuse a hoax. Make no mistake though, they are a hoax. Ms. Heard made up claims of abuse, and then she gave a performance where she passionately repeated those made-up claims of abuse on the stand in front of each of you. But ask yourselves, who's really the one alleging a hoax here? Who wants you to believe that everyone else is lying, committing perjury? Ms. Heard needs you to believe that all the people who showed up in this courtroom to testify on behalf of Mr. Depp, they're all lying. She needs you to believe that the witnesses you heard from, including security professionals, former cops, medical professionals, and police officers, they're all lying, covering up for Mr. Depp. She's asking you to believe that she's the one telling the truth. These people have nothing to gain by coming forward. They have everything to lose. The key point Mr. Waldman was making in each of these statements was simply that Ms. Heard's accusations against Mr. Depp were lies. That's why he talks about an abuse hoax. Now, Ms. Heard has the burden of proof proving that Mr. Waldman's statements are false. And that means that Ms. Heard has to do more than prove that Mr. Waldman got some details wrong. She has to prove that Mr. Waldman's statements are false in their essential meaning. In other words, she has to prove that her abuse claims are not a hoax. There is no evidence in this record, none, that Mr. Waldman acted with actual malice. As you heard from Dr. Shannon Curry, Ms. Heard does not have PTSD, and she does not act like a person with PTSD. Ms. Heard hired Dr. Don Hughes to help her with this narrative. Dr. Hughes did not catch Ms. Heard's exaggeration during testing because Dr. Hughes used an improper malingering screen test. She wasn't going to find it, one that is meant to identify an examinee's attempt to fake a severe mental illness or psychosis, not PTSD.
Andy? Yes.
Dr. Hughes diagnosed Ms. Heard with PTSD.
You'll want to pause this. I've got.
Yes,
right.
sorry, go.
So, Queen Camille there has just turned around and said, you know, Amber does not have PTSD. Okay. So, Amber's turned around and said in her testimony, you know, because of the PTSD and everything that she's gone through, there's this unspoken rule in terms of how people can touch me and this, that, and the other, right? I'm sorry, but I'm calling BS on that one. And absolutely agree with Dr. Curry and Camille's statement that she don't have PTSD because she's all day long saying, oh, people have to be careful in terms of how they approach me, how they touch me, this, that, and the other. I'm sorry, but we've seen it in the courtroom. A lawyer's touching her all day long and she's fine. Hugs, this, that, and the other. If that was the case, then contact with the lawyers would be extremely limited. You'd be seeing Amber being all standoffish with her lawyers, this, that, and the other because of a quote-unquote PTSD and the issues around people going near her and hugging her and all that lot. So, yeah. I just had that thought in my head and I thought, yeah, it just clicked. What do you guys think? Yay? Nay?
Yeah, I think it's possible.
Well, shiz.
I think, too, if that was the case, she would be in a very triggered state. Just because of where she was, right? It would be very difficult. I would assume she would have a bit more hypervigilance, but that's just my perspective.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Without administering the gold standard diagnostic test used for PTSD. She diagnosed her, think about that, she diagnosed her with PTSD before administering the test she admitted was the gold standard. And Ms. Heard has presented no evidence, none, of any film or other project that she has lost because of the statements. In fact, you heard from Warner Brothers president, Walter Hamada, who explained that Ms. Heard suffered no loss, none, no loss of compensation or other adverse effect on her major film, Aquaman 2. You heard it straight from him. Ms. Arnold compares Ms. Heard to actors such as Jason Momoa, the actual Aquaman, Chris Pine, Gal Gadot, and Zendaya. But as Richard Marx, who does deals every day, that's his job, not testifying here for a paycheck. Further and more fatally for Ms. Heard's damages claim, is that there's no connection to the Waldman statements, to Mr. Waldman's statements. Mr. Banya testified that all the negative tweets that Ms. Heard has entered into evidence have no causal connection to the statements underlying Ms. Heard's counterclaims. Specifically, Ms. Heard's expert, Mr. Ron Schell, presented a flawed methodology that included picking out hashtags at random, including justice for Johnny Depp. What does that have to do with the Waldman statements? Ms. Heard knows perfectly well that she hasn't suffered any damages from those statements. What matters is whether Ms. Heard republished the defamatory language. That instruction states in part that you should find Ms. Heard republished this article if she, quote, retransmitted the defamatory material with the goal of achieving a new audience. Stated differently, republication occurs when the speaker has affirmatively, that's important, affirmatively reiterated the statement. And she affirmatively reiterated the statement by proudly declaring, "Today I published this op-ed in the Washington Post." She was alleging physical and sexual abuse. She was not alleging emotional or psychological abuse. She was alleging physical and sexual abuse. You either believe all of it or you believe none of it. Either she's telling the truth, including in her most extreme allegations, or she's lying. Either she was raped by a bottle, or she's the sort of person who would get on the stand in this courtroom and lie to you and the world about being raped. And if she would lie about that, what wouldn't she lie about? In her own words, you've heard the tapes. You've heard her admit to violence. Ms. Heard can try to distract you with text messages showing that Mr. Depp uses bad language and has a dark sense of humor. But none of that, I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, none of that is evidence of abuse. Hitting your husband is evidence of abuse. Mr. Depp only has to show that it is more likely than not, that the statements in the op-ed are false, that it is more likely than not that they have a defamatory implication, that it is more likely than not that Ms. Heard designed and intended the statements to refer to Mr. Depp. You may have noticed that no one showed up for Ms. Heard in this courtroom other than her sister.
Yeah,
Every other witness
I
who traveled to Virginia for her was a paid expert. This is a woman who burns bridges. Her close friends don't show up for her. Mr. Rottenborn tried to discredit Mr. Depp's witnesses by suggesting they're all on Mr. Depp's payroll. So he doubled down on the hoax theory, that everyone's just lying. Morgan Knight, none of those people are on his payroll. And Kate Moss is most definitely not on Mr. Depp's payroll. This is not a Me Too situation. There are no Me Too's, just not me's.
She's so confused. Just not me. She's like, what?
Ms. Heard does not deserve to be known as a representative of survivors of abuse. And Mr. Depp does not deserve to be known as a representative of perpetrators of abuse. We ask you, we implore you, to render a verdict, Mr. Depp. We ask you to set the record straight, that he is not the abuser she described, and that she is not the heroic survivor she portrayed. And we ask you to tell Ms. Heard that what she did was wrong. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, ma'am.
Woo, nice.
Rebuttal closing.
And then Johnny was just so happy. Those are people that care about each other. It's so clear.
Yeah.
Now, before we get there, Paige is here. What's up, Paige? You had some breaking news for us because you were watching one of the feeds. What's this breaking news?
So people have been like, "Oh, the jury's done. The jury's not done. They're just going home for the night. It's 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so they're just done for the night. So everybody can just relax. They're still going to return to the court on Tuesday. They have a lot of stuff to go through. Like they've got all of this evidence, and us watching from home, we've had the time to watch all of this and gather all of the information that we have. And if the jury is being legal and they're not looking at other stuff, they only have what is in that laptop and what they've been given. So they have a lot of time. We probably won't get an answer Tuesday. I mean, if I was in the jury, my answer would have been done within a minute, but that's not me.
Yeah, it's a good sign that they're not coming up with a decision tonight. And I want to go through that together. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Make sure you do. But let's go through, just so I got it all in. We almost made it. Here's the last 2 minutes of Rottenborn's cross, because they only had, I think, what it was, 3 minutes or 4 minutes?
They had 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
We cut it down to 2 at 46.
Which I got something to say afterwards about that, Andy, if you don't mind.
We got a lot to go through. Don't worry. Let's just get through these last 2 minutes.
That
Cool.
in both their opening and their rebuttal closing, that you heard Mr. Depp's attorneys address none of Ms. Heard's witnesses. None of Ms. Heard's witnesses. They listed their own, who didn't see, who are on his payroll, weren't there behind closed doors with him, but they didn't address any of the witnesses. They say that no one showed up for her. Then they say that these people aren't friends anymore. If they're not friends anymore, then why would they be doing what they would suggest are lying for her? Why would they be corroborating everything that she says? If you believe
I have an answer to that
Depp
one.
was abused,
Perjury.
Yeah.
to Amber one time ever in any of the various forms of abuse, not only physical, verbal, emotional, psychological, sexual, any of the ways of abuse, and you can not only deny Mr. Depp's claim, but you can fine for Amber on her counterclaim. And it's interesting that Ms. Vasquez just changed their theory after 6 weeks. She said, oh, well, domestic abuse just means physical abuse. It's not what Mr. Depp said. It's not what Dr. Curry said. Not what Dr. Hughes said. It's not what you know to be true. And there's a reason that they're running as fast as they can from those sorts of abuse, because they know that he did it. The evidence shows that Ms. Heard did not commit abuse hoaxes, and certainly not about Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman's catch-all, all-purpose statement that Ms. Heard's abuse hoax, which suggests that every one of her allegations are false. The evidence shows she did not commit any of those hoaxes. Now, after years and years of Mr. Depp controlling the roles that Ms. Heard took, Ms. Heard had the biggest hit of her career 3 months before she was sued. She had withstood Mr. Depp's attempt to have her fired from Aquaman and his own jealousy as his career went down the drain before her op-ed for reasons having nothing to do with Ms. Heard. You've heard Amber and her agent, Jessica Kovacevic, talk about the impact to Amber's career. She can't get hired because of the negative treatment she gets. Studios like her, co-stars like her, she tests well, but she can't get opportunities because of the negativity associated with Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman. You heard Amber Heard on the stand yesterday. We ask, ladies and gentlemen, that you hold Mr. Depp accountable for his actions.
And I also appreciate Judy because she's a rock star. Okay, so, yes. Thank you. Well, that's a first. Okay.
She well earned. Judy's been typing everything up. Oh my God, what a show! It got really weird at one point, honestly. If I'm being honest, Steph, it got real weird. You're not going to miss it if you're not yet a member. Hit that join button. It may make you stay forever or run away immediately, but pick a level, hit join, make sure you're here, and make sure you support Steph the Alter Nerd, It's Kim, Louis Lecca, Christopher Melcher, Paige Vaughn, Alicia Sauter, and all our amazing community members. Thank you guys so much for being here, donating. This has been such a wild ride. My God, so happy for Johnny getting out there. We'll be here as it breaks. It'll be sometime next week. And we got lots more coming, including jury reveals. We're going to talk to more people in the courtroom, how'd they react through these closings and throughout the trial. Stay tuned. Lots more coming on the channel. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. In fact, you can hit it right there in the top left afterwards on this video. If you're watching live, please don't click. You're going to get ported over to Nerd Report. If you're watching on the replay, click on one of these.